they test them. If they catch so many West Nile mosquitoes, then they have a West Nile area they need to treat, so that, anyway.
They do the same thing with fruit flies.
Boy, I wish they could get in my kitchen.
I lived in Houston for a couple of years, and there's a hum at night.
There's a what?
A hum,
Oh,
and I didn't know what it was. And so in the summertime, I went outside, no matter what, and it looks like a garbage truck,
oh yeah.
and it just drives around really slowly and sprays.
Is this your pen?
Fog.
No, that
This
was
is yours. Yours specific, Rich.
So she says 5 minutes.
Now that one wasn't in my desk. I have a pencil.
They call them fog.
Where was she?
She apparently got stuck on a call, and she said she will be here in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Mosquitoes.
So,
Specific.
and we know the other two will not be here. So.
It's hot. The sun goes down. It's still hot. Muggy. The tree roaches the size of your fist. They smile at you. They come at you.
I know.
How's Mr. Toller?
Like the dates, I've been keeping them covered because they just love mice.
Could be home, having a toddy.
I'll tell you, the other good news is the pre-crash commuter car starting to shimmy really bad, and I thought, well, it's a bad tire on it, time for new tires or something. But I got this guy, Frank Anderson. So I said, well, I want stock wheels and stock tires. I'm tired of the spoke ones and the aftermarket wheels or tires. They don't last very long. So he had some stock wheels, but same. Anyway, no shimmy.
That's cool. I'll have to look that
Gas
up.
mileage went through the roof.
Nice.
There
you go.
Yeah.
I'd love to read the study, but
$200.
it's not really
Or 4
Not
brand new
bad.
tires. Yeah.
Not bad.
It's like making
But I
money.
found,
Yep.
Frank's good on a good deal like that.
Oh, he is.
He's got a lot of treasures laying
I
around.
buy all my disposable cars from him.
Yeah.
To see if I can dispose of them.
Just drive it till it blows up, trash that one, and
Fix up that international across the street, I'll give it to you for a great price.
Yes, I do. Absolutely. What are you thinking?
You just take
So
it.
it's been helpful.
Okay.
Sometimes I forget.
Buy my mom a drink or something.
Oh,
Do your brother understand?
All right.
no.
Fix that season.
Yeah, I thought it was great,
It'll run. I had it on for a while.
What is it?
what kind of international car?
72, 71 international.
Vaughn was
Oh, no
just
kidding.
carping about
Pickup or a
It's a
Scout
four-
or-
is it a four? It's not a four-wheel drive.
No, just two-wheel, stick shift.
It's for the high school.
Yes.
That'll only be 3 on the tree.
My Pontiac's a 300.
$20 every year. When I can spend $4 on a bottle that
Yeah.
lasts me the whole
I'll give you
season.
If you
20.
wanted to get that, move that thing somewhere.
I'll give you $20 for it,
Definitely
Jeff.
want to,
Just drive it, yeah, we'll just drive it over the lot. I got an unauthorized,
And mosquitoes.
no, I'm not even gonna go there.
yep, make my mom a deal.
And so actually.
If you pass on that,
If
No,
you pass on it, then
I will not pass on that.
I'll give you $20 for it.
I will not pass that one. We have a Scout.
Yeah.
My dad has a Scout, and there's an engine. I got, uh-oh.
Yes.
It'll go into good hands if you take care of it because of that. My dad would appreciate that too. Yeah, we've had that, I think.
Brakes, you don't, brakes are for people who don't know how to plan ahead.
Yeah, that was,
That's one way of approaching it.
yeah, well, we had that, that's, yeah, as long as I can. And almost every original mile, and my dad's worked on the farm for a while.
Yeah,
Eso está bien.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was wondering about it. You need it there as a blocker for people cutting across the
Yeah.
lot. but,
There she is.
Sorry, guys.
Todo bien, no, pasado.
Sí, hubo un accidente muy grande. They're targets. Ay, hubo un accidente muy grande. Sorry.
How's it going?
We have a new listing in that one.
It's okay, I just drove her from Emmett.
You what?
I drove her from Emmett.
Oh, I was stuck on the phone.
I was gonna give up. Freeway was on fire.
Yeah.
I was trying to get over here and it was nuts. So, I'm sitting in Topher's area.
There you go.
Sorry, guys. Christina, Scott, Travis. What was that?
I said we can do it both at the end.
Yeah,
Are you
we'll
ready?
do that later. Yep.
No? Okay. We're recording.
So do I just hit the gavel and...
Yep, hit the gavel, call the meeting to order.
Okay, we're gonna start our meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission. Today, Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. We're gonna establish a quorum, seeing that we have 3 of us here. And then we're gonna head over to approve the minutes from September 5th, 2023.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for September 5th of 2023.
Okay,
Second?
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's see here, we're gonna recognize persons not on the agenda today. Seeing as we have none, we'll move on. Conflict of interest, ex parte contact declarations. Does any commissioner, commissioner's employer, or commissioner's family member have an economic interest in any matter on the agenda?
No.
Have any commissioners received communications or engaged in discussions regarding matters on this agenda outside of this meeting?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to public hearing and action. We're going to start off with PZ 23-64 action item. Conditional use permit. Taryn Mitchell with TKM Architecture is seeking a conditional use permit to allow for construction of an RV park in a C4 zoning district at the corner of Northwest Jerome and Northwest Smith Road. And do we just go ahead and call up Taryn to talk about
I'm
it?
gonna give you a brief invitation and we'll invite Mr. Mitchell up at the same time.
Okay.
So from staff, has stated the RV park in a C4 requires a conditional use permit. We did do a staff review. The request for the RV park is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. All of the public notifications for sign postings and mailings were sent out on time as required by city code. And like I said, this does comply with the comprehensive plan. So with that, I am going to pop up Mr. Mitchell's presentation and I will hand it over to him. There we are, sir.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for allowing us to present. And so, as usual, I think it's always great for the owner of the property to share a little bit about themselves.
Okay.
Her husband would normally be here as well.
Okay.
So Miguel, he is stuck in traffic, not in the wreck, I shouldn't say it that way, but as a consequence of the wreck, he's stuck in traffic. So
Got it.
he apologizes.
Another wreck.
I think
Okay.
there's 2.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Pamela is here, and she'd just like to say a couple of words to you.
Okay.
Ok, yo digo en español.
Por favor.
Sí,
I'll translate.
Yo hablo bien el español.
Oh, perfecto.
But for everybody else in the room, yes. Yeah.
Ok, mi nombre es Nancy Pamela Ibarra y pues estoy aquí representando también a mi esposo mientras llega. Tenemos el plan de hacer un parqueadero de trailers, de RVs en nuestro lote. ¿Necesitas traducir? ¿O digo todo?
I can translate if you want me to.
Either way is okay. So,
Okay. Scott doesn't speak Spanish. Okay, so you're going to be doing an RV parking lot on your current lot that you have right now on Northwest Jerome and Smith Road. Is that correct? Okay.
Street.
Smith Street.
Smith Street.
Sí.
Good one. Okay. Continue.
Ok, tenemos el plan pues para hacer el parqueadero en un determinado tiempo, ¿verdad? Primero necesitamos pues la autorización de todos ustedes que estén de acuerdo para poder proseguir pues con este plan. Quisiéramos pues salir adelante, ¿verdad? Primeramente con este proyecto para continuar con lo demás que tenemos en mente, pero sería lo primero pues que tenemos ahorita para hacer.
Okay, so basically, for everybody listening, they have a plan already set in place, and they've been working with with Mr. Mitchell to get that all together. And obviously, they are here asking us to help them with that, and to basically listen to their plan before they can obviously go ahead and move forward with the rest of the plans. ¿Algo más?
Sí, está bien.
¿Es todo? Ok.
Gracias.
Perfecto.
So, with that introduction, we'll dive in.
Okay.
So the site for the Ontiveros family is directly adjacent to their home, and so this gives a nice graphic about where in town it is located. And so those that are in attendance, I'm sure know where Northwest Jerome Avenue and Smith Street are. I'll mention some of a very nice conversation I had with a woman in attendance right now in regards to making sure there's it will be distinguished between Smith Street and Smith Road.
Got it.
And with that, I will move forward. So we will quickly take a look at what the site looks like. This was taken about 3 weeks ago. And so right now I'm standing at the corner. Right here would be Northwest Jerome, and then to the right is Smith Street. Smith Street again. So this is about what it looks like right now. And another one. Okay. And as Chris mentioned, we are started using the plans that we can download from the city website that indicate where we are in terms of the city. So the green outline itself shows the city area of impact, and this one shows the zoning and the future land use as they are currently indicated. So this purple indicates commercial, so that is what the city has identified as a commercial use, and we're about right here in the middle here. So very, very much in compliance with the future land use, the proposed future land use. So we'll do a quick snapshot. The land is currently in the city, so we're not asking for annexation. It is Zone C4. RV, so an RV park, which is what we're proposing, is an approved use, but it's through conditional use permit, which is why we're here today. And so we are not subdividing. We have one lot, and that is what we would like to maintain. The lot is 0.712 acres. Zoning is what we have, and so we're permitted. In the density, we're still allowed because it's a commercial use, but it falls under residential as well. So we have the R4 standards that we can follow or have to follow in terms of density. And we are asking for 11 camping sites. So through the NFPA, I believe it's 1194, they're referred to as RV camping sites. So that is a concrete pad. We'll have I'll show that in a second, but a concrete pad with a buffer area that could be a yard or landscaping that separates those pads. And we do provide 2 stalls per camping site, which is required. We are not including in that requirement on-street parking, although Northwest Jerome does have adequate width in the public right-of-way. Currently, there are a lot of cars there, I believe, that use the Chevy dealership there for the auto ranch. And the open space, because we're well less than 5 acres, we don't have that requirement, but we provide open space because of the use. And rather than the 1,500 gross square feet, we're providing a little over 11,000 square feet for open space. Okay, this is the site as it occurs and it exists today, and showing the setbacks. We do have 2 setbacks. One is a street side setback and one is a front setback. And we'll see how that has an effect on the layout. Okay. So here is what we're proposing. We do have current improvements of the concrete curb, gutter, and sidewalk on the east side of the site, abutting Jerome, Northwest Jerome, that has already been put in place by the applicant. We're proposing that we will improve the street right-of-way on the Northwest Smith Street. And where we have a single drive lane for ingress and for egress. Those are 12 feet wide and was reviewed by our fire marshal, by Marshal Reed, for adequacy for the size camping sites that we are requesting. The site is, it's fairly large actually if you get out there, but we are restricted because you can't have your RV into the setback. And so we're proposing a 12-foot drive lane that allows for a 25-foot RV to be parked. Now, not all of the camping sites are the same size. So this row in the center, even though they are larger, we're proposing a 25-foot camping site, but that will afford us to provide our second parking stall for these two. This one, we do have a parking stall here and then a parking stall located adjacent to it. And then for this one, because of the amount of space, they're shifted to the north to provide our two required parking. And so on the west side, the camping sites are a little bit smaller, and so we have a parking stalls located not in tandem but stacked on top of each other. I will skip over. As you can see, there would be some grass, which will be buffalo grass. The rest of it will be, I'm going to stop saying water conservation landscaping because that's just too many words. There's too many words. So I heard a better term from much smarter people than I. So water-wise landscaping. So it is the same thing that you would find at the Idaho Botanical Gardens, but making use of plants that are native to Idaho and require very little water. We do have one central garbage receptacle for use by the tenants, and that has been confirmed and verified by Republic Waste Services. Okay, so we are not asking for anything, any variances, any deviations from the requirements from the city ordinance. Now, I will mention that there's a 30-foot prescriptive setback for C4 zoning. We checked both with the city and with the fire marshal, and they have said that, pending your decision in city council, that they don't see any reason because of the use that we can change that to a 25-foot setback on both the side and the front. And one of the reasons being that 30-foot is the maximum, it's the largest setback in our city ordinances. Everything else we follow to the T. And even though it's C4, we're not building any structures, and so we're not asking for any height variances or really any height at all. Okay, I mentioned the kinds of plantings that you can expect as part of this, as well as our buffalo grass. Can't see that picture enough. Okay, and as Mr. Curtis mentioned, we believe that we are very much in compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. And so this offers a variety of housing types or lodging types located in a commercial district. We don't abut the Airbase Road, so we did not need, and we have 11 units. And so reaching out to ITD was not necessary. These are smaller RVs, so physically there would be a limitation on the size of RV that could even fit on the site. And so through natural means, it would limit or preclude, I would say, the larger RVs that might otherwise want to stay there. And so let's get through, and figured I'd keep it rather brief, so thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so everybody's here for this one? All right, let's go ahead and open it to public hearing then. And then what you'll want to do is when you come up, you're going to want to go ahead and sign in with your name and your address, please. Anybody? So
I
we're
already signed in.
oh, okay, perfect. So does anybody want to come in and?
Well, there's 4 people signed up. I'm just going to speak at the end.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, come on up. Come on up. Just state your name for the record.
My name is Clarice Hammond. I live at 926 Northwest Smith Drive. This street has been called street, drive, road, whatever you want to call it. The sign says one thing, but I was told my address is drive.
Where'd Rich go?
Now, did I just talk?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I have several questions. Number one, I picked up the paper off of the property.
Okay.
It was so small, I could not read it, I could not understand it, and so I have several questions.
Okay.
Number one, the address of this park is stated to be 77 Jerome Street. Why are the drive in and out off of Smith Street? If the address is Jerome Street, another question I have is Smith Street, I've been told, is plenty wide. I don't think it's plenty wide. That street is a weird street. The one on that is on the street, Smith Street, is divided in half. One side of it is city, the other side is county. That street, in that vicinity of where they're putting that, there is a daycare. I have no objection to a daycare or anything, but the people that are bringing their children are going down that street, parking in the middle or on the side, and it's not big enough for that. There are cars parked along that street all hours of the day, because some people work at night, some people work in the day, and so before they said that Smith Street would be the main street, I would like to see them put up one of those wire things, so that they can see how many cars go through there.
Okay.
There are only approximately 3 people living on my side of the street at the present, but there's another house going to go in there. I just don't understand some of these things.
Okay, perfect. So then we'll take these questions and, you know, be able to bring the applicant back up and be able to ask these questions. Was that all? I don't mean to cut you off or anything.
No, that's fine. I'm concerned about where I live.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Do we have anyone else?
My name's Don Gust. I'm with West Side Sewer District.
Okay.
I think I've already signed your paper there. I have a few questions and stuff. We are not going to give up any more of our boundaries out there. We have half of that street, and you guys should not be able to tie on without our permission. And are you guys going to put sidewalk around that whole perimeter, clear around whatever you guys think you got out there?
Is that something that,
They plan to put in curb better.
So you're going to lose some boundary there, right? And I don't, you know, I feel kind of the same as her. That's a narrow street. And a little bit about some of the kids, you know, there's not too many kids there right now, but there is down below. And so anyway, you guys are tying on to our infrastructure, which we should get something for. You've already taken another one up the street, and it's not going to happen again. You guys pulled a shenanigan on a really good friend, and I don't appreciate that.
okay. Was there any other questions or any other comments that you had for us to add?
I can probably think of some, but not right this minute.
Okay.
I mean, there's lots of questions.
Okay.
But mainly, you guys aren't taking over our infrastructure. And we want some reimbursement for the rest of it on our side of the highway. You guys can have over there, Meadows Trailer Park and all that garbage over there that you guys took over. But you're not taking any more, and we want some of that other back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Lagan. I didn't sign it yet. Okay, I'm also with the sewer board out there.
Okay.
And we're in negotiations right now with the city about it, EDUs. We got a lawyer, and he's in negotiations with the city. And we'd just like to make sure we get some of the EDU money. If you do let this project go through, you're going to be hooking to our infrastructure. We don't mind you doing it, but you will pay us. We'll collect the fees and turn over the rest of the fees to the city like we've been doing with everything else. Same thing that goes on with Colthorpe Commons. Same thing goes with CNA Auto. They're a city, but they're still using our infrastructure. They pay us, we pay you. That's what's going to happen on this project, or else we will decline it. We don't mind it coming in, but it's our infrastructure. You guys hook our infrastructure. We don't mind. We'll collect the fees, and it'll be sent to you guys. Also, I don't know how it happened. we went and picked up our mail, and it was supposedly mailed out on September 2nd. That's what I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Chris.
Chris said, he said it was, he showed us on the thing that there was mailed out the second one. Well, we just got it on Monday. That's 1 day notice, and we didn't. You know, that's pretty tight. So I'm just saying, if you allow it to go through, you're hooking to our infrastructure, and you have to. It'll be okay with us as long as it's the same as the Coulthard Commons was just coming in. We're going to collect the fees and pay the city just like CNA Auto. Same thing down there. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Okay.
I've already signed in. Most of you know me. My name's Aubrey Hart. I live at 179 Northwest Jerome. My son was here just a little while ago. He had to leave early. He is at 149 Northwest Jerome. So I'll be speaking for him as well. We have a few concerns. First, I would like to start by saying my sympathies to Pamela and her husband. We know what has gone on that property several years ago, why there's no longer a home on that property. It was an awful situation, and I definitely sympathize with that. And I do know that they've had it for sale one other time, and that didn't work. I have, as a realtor, I have concerns about the groundwater there because of the situation with the dogs and the house having to be demolished as a result. You know, if I had been the listing realtor on that, I would have requested an environmental impact study and seeing, you know, if water is affected there. And I also have concerns about the infrastructure with the sewer district and everything else. I mean, we're already talking about a proposed 67 townhouses on Jerome. That's going to tie up a lot of that infrastructure. Adding 11 more, you know, is just an added tax, you know, and from my understanding, we're already kind of reaching capacity in that area. I also have concerns about parking and the traffic that's going in and out of there. That is very close to Air Base Road, and you know, it makes it just ever so slightly more difficult to get in and out, you know, with people coming and going on an already not wide road. I know they use the term it's adequate, but it is not a wide road going through there. And on Smith Street, it is even narrower.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you know, I don't know what the criteria is for that on Smith Street, but I'm sure it probably just barely meets it. If you have people parking on either side of the street, there is only room for one car to go down at a time. We also already have Cottonwood RV Park on Bradford, on the corner of Bradford and Air Base Road. It's a disaster over there. It is an absolute disaster, and I have concerns that within a few years we're going to be attracting the same sort of people that are over there, the same sort of style. I really strongly feel that this will devalue our homes that are already existing in that area. I also, you know, I do have concerns for kids. If we're looking at another RV park in a short area, I don't care how nice it's going to be in the beginning, it's not going to stay that way indefinitely. And there is a daycare there. You know, I have concerns about what kind of people are going to be in the neighborhood and around a daycare around kids, and we can't prevent, ill-intentioned people from moving into the only affordable places that they can find, so it's a real concern, in our neighborhood. I know my other neighbor on Colthorpe, who didn't get a notification for this meeting, she has her grandchildren there, almost on a daily basis. And these are my friends, my family, people that I care immensely about, and I care about their well-being and what's going to happen with them as well. So I just, in my personal and somewhat professional opinion as a realtor, I feel like this is not the best use of this property. Okay. Do we have any other comment? Okay.
Commissioners, you all know Misty Pierce. I have, no offense to Taryn, no beef with development whatsoever. I know we need housing. But I also don't think that this is a good place with the roads being so narrow and the county roads that are not maintained, as well as city streets, and this is not harmonious with the area. And trying to get an RV over, even if they came on Jerome, with the traffic with the coffee shop and the Chevy dealership, and then you've got the Colthorpe Commons coming in, it's going to be tight in that area with those roads. And Smith, I drive that every once in a while. That's the area I live in. I don't live in the county section, but I live in the city section, and I drive in that area, and those roads are very narrow, and it's going to be hard to pull an RV. I'd hate to see somebody be sideswiped because somebody was told you can put your 25-foot RV in here and either get jackhammered trying to get in, or a car gets hit because somebody could not fit to get into those spots. So I have nothing against the development. I have nothing against what they want to do with their property. I just don't think it's the right fit in the right area, in that appropriate area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anybody else? Any other comments? For or against? No? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and bring the applicant back up with Mr. Mitchell and be able to get some more information on this.
Solo vamos a responder a las preguntas y los comentarios.
Commissioners, any questions?
I've got some that aren't on the list if you guys want to ask some that are on, so I'll wait for mine to procure as we go along here. The drive in and out, how wide is Smith Road? Smith Street, Smith Drive, whatever we call it. It seems like that came up over and over and over again. I think I'd like to clarify to get an understanding of the width, if I can, please.
I'll get it for you if you want to.
Okay. The next one may have legal involvement. I'm not really sure how this works, but the infrastructure compensation tie-in, EDU compensation fees. I don't know where this goes here. I've never heard of this. This is new to me.
Rich.
He's gonna go get the size of the road.
Okay.
So, probably want to get to the street. Yeah, that, whether or not the tie-in, so I believe let me just clarify this, you said that they could connect.
As far as the west side sewer goes, we will not tie, but we want some EDU money, and we want,
So they can connect, well, I don't know, anyway, that's between the developer and the
Right.
West Side Sewer District, so.
Okay, so that's not of our concern then in this state.
If they can, yeah.
Okay.
If the application
That's fine.
states that they have sewer facilities,
Sure.
they have acquired sewer and aren't going to be using a septic system.
Sure.
And they're connecting to a sewage line, what that looks like on that end.
But that's not our EDU is what I'm saying, right?
Well, I don't, that's why we need Rich.
Okay.
Because we did have a meeting about that, and so.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to the sewer district about?
Yes, so
Connection.
something that wasn't mentioned that I'll mention.
Okay.
From those that have spoken.
Okay, great.
Is that we went out, I went and spoke to the West Side Sewer District to introduce the project, to make sure that they were aware of what was being proposed, and to give them an opportunity to air any grievances or concerns at that time. And spent probably, it was a better part of an hour, hour and a half with them to make sure that they understood what we were proposing and what the project would entail, what would it include, where we would connect. I mentioned again how many EDUs we have in terms of capacity. The only concern or question of capacity is on Northwest Jerome, and that one line, so the rest of it has far greater capacity. Northwest Jerome is a sticking point and has, I don't want to speak authoritatively, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but it's essentially 160 units could use that line, that one line. So Colthorpe is 64 units, not 67, and Colthorpe is not attaching all 64 units onto Northwest Jerome. There would be at most 29 units attached to Northwest Jerome, not 64. So, we're more than happy to add additional clarification on how the infrastructure works and how those proposed developments would connect and what those implications would be. So we talked a little bit about that already with West Side Sewer District. I did speak with Ms. Hammond as well on site and responded to many of those questions with her about why it's laid out the way it is. There was some concern about the name, the street nomenclature. So as Mr. Curtis is well aware, and I'm sure you are as well, the street name changes based on where you look. So I tend to look at the county GIS as the authoritative one. But that's something that would be apart from what we're requesting. So hopefully that answered those series of questions.
Yeah, need Rich
I can't.
to get my question answered. No.
I just wanted to show, I'm only one board member. I can't speak for everybody else. I just let you know that they had my vote to move it. That's,
Okay.
I'm telling you right now. I don't know about the other two, but they had my vote.
The public hearing is over.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we really need to not engage.
Oh, I'm
okay?
sorry, I just,
It's okay, yeah.
because he said West Side Sewer can let them in, and I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So,
I didn't mean
but
to speak
what
out.
I was wondering if Rich had that. So the concern of the sticking point is that West Side Sewer District has a contract with the city of Mountain Home, and then there's a certain cost that's passed through.
That's involved,
to the
yes.
city. So in terms of connecting to the West Side Sewer District versus the city. So have you been in more contact with them?
Not since we've had.
Not since that
Since that
meeting?
last
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you needed Rich
I would like to know
answer.
like how the EDU works. So how does this work as far as sewer and water? Is that connected through the counties and that's an EDU through them, or is that an EDU that's counted through us?
Well, it would be, we would count it, I mean, it's our system, so we would count them the same. So it's an RV, so it would be for every 4 spots, it's one
One,
EDU.
yeah. For sewer and water, correct?
The water there is on the city's water system.
Right, which I knew that. I was trying to understand the connection point here. This is a confusing thing to me. And so I know about obviously owning half and half the road. Like I understand that part. I don't understand the EDU lookup, but I do now.
So for every spot, meaning for every,
So it'd be
RV.
2.1, 2.2 EDUs, essentially.
for this one.
2.2, 2.25, something like that. In that range. We're just shooting from the hip. Don't mark
It's
me down,
11,
please.
So
Chair.
Question mark.
Taryn,
Yes.
Sewer hookups for the trailers, is that going to be by spot? Is that the intention? Is there one collection in terms of a dump site? What do we anticipate there?
Great question. So it would be every camping site, every spot would have a sewer connection. That would connect into an interior line. There would be one connection that connects at Northwest Jerome.
So it's individually and then they converge,
Correct.
basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Smith Street width,
I can't get my map.
It's about 20 to 21 feet.
20,
That's
21
it.
feet. In comparison to Jerome, 35, okay.
That's at least.
One lane, right there.
Okay. Covering the 1-day notice, I'm not any part of the postal service, so I'll be honest, I want to cover it because you brought it up. I'm not sure how that happens. I know my mail has been not right lately as well, so, well, I guess we'll have to forgive them just this once.
I can't tell you the notice was sent. Is that
Yeah,
required?
I saw the time required, yeah. As far as covering the deed value of homes, that was something that was brought up. I don't think that's something that we can foresee. We've had this conversation before, Ms. Drake and I have. This isn't something you can foresee. So I guess not leaving that open-ended, but that's just something that I want to add in there because it was something that was brought up. I highly doubt it is, but environmental is not required on this, correct? Okay. What was there previously?
I can.
Single-family house.
Single-family home?
Big single-family house, but as she was mentioning, it was one that, in which the renter had 58 dogs.
I think I remember this.
800 square foot house, yes.
Okay.
I prosecuted the case and got the dogs seized. There was flooring, so the amount of that the house was condemned as a result of it.
Mhm.
So there was urine on the walls and things like that, but the house itself, I guess I'll let them speak to, but the only part I know is I prosecuted the case.
So we wouldn't need an environmental study from DEQ then?
No.
In order for that to go through?
No.
Okay. And they would be tapping into the city's water, right?
Correct.
They're not building a well, basically, to service that area. Would they would just get water from there? Is that right? They would still hook into the water?
They do have a well on site,
Okay, oh,
but the potable water supply we would request be connected to the city lines.
okay.
Irrigation would be provided by the well, the existing well.
So the well would be considered non-consumable.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll bring up one more, as Misty brought up the location. I'm going to hesitantly throw in my 2 cents. As far as the pulling in on Smith Road, I'll be honest with you, it does concern me. 21 feet concerns me. If it was at least the length of the truck and let's say half of what the camper could fit of 25 feet, I would probably feel better. But it's not. I've never pulled into Smith Street. I guess that's what they call it because that's what it says on my information. I've never pulled a camper down that way, so I wouldn't know. So this is a completely objective look at it. I want everyone to understand that. But I will admit that from this aerial view, it looks narrow, very narrow.
Can I just jump, Commissioners? I measured I didn't measure the right of way because I did not have anything to look at what the right of way was. So I was just looking at pretty much kind of the road. So
Yeah.
there's probably right of way in there too, but I did not look at that. So.
Which a sidewalk would alleviate, correct?
Yes, and, right.
It would be completely eat that up, right. Well, I'm gonna throw this out there. You know me, I wanna know.
We appreciate it.
It being 30 feet setback and you going 30 feet instead of 25, if this might be something more for legal, this would be permissible, essentially. If they were to, we'll say they shrank it to, I'm just gonna say 5, that's not an exact number of what they'd be able to fit in here, that would technically be permissible without crossing this body again. Because a conditional use permit is just for the setbacks, correct? It is not for anything else. Everything in C4 is permittable as far as,
Go ahead.
Sorry, this is, it has to be, because of C4, it has to be conditional use. So we're not asking, how do I phrase this? We're not asking for permission because we want to agree with the city and say 25 is sufficient. Because it's C4 and it's an RV park, it requires conditional use
The
permit.
RV park drives the request for the.
from the C4, okay, that was my question.
If this were I-1, it would be permitted outright.
So,
Right, okay.
so, like, in land use basic training, right, so it's either permitted outright, or it's a type of use that will create some sort of conflict to which you must attach conditions. But this one doesn't appear to have conditions unless you want to attach conditions to it. The conditions, the performance standards for in our, like, I'll use the one for drive-in windows that we use, right? So, you know, no blaring loudspeakers after 2 a.m. or something like that. So if you can attach conditions that ameliorate conflicts that are connected to the use.
Got it.
So the aim of the idea was, I wanted to say that 30 feet or 25 feet would make no difference.
Right.
So it not being permissible, it has to go across this body, that's
It still has to
here
go
and over
through.
there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hearsay, if you will. Okay, those are all my questions.
Yeah, it would still, what I'm gathering is that it would still need to cross our desk in order for us to, yeah, okay, understood. Do you have any questions?
I do. Question for Taryn. I noticed on the picture that you first brought up, looking down, Jerome, where the curb and gutter has been updated, that there were driveway cuts in that. Can you help us understand those uses or what their potential uses could be?
Great question and good observation. So, yes, we do have existing curb cuts off of Northwest Jerome. So that is what that's what I used to lay out the initial layout of the RV park. Because the site is more or less square, and because of the way the setbacks worked out, if I gained access off of Smith instead of Jerome, I could fit 2 more camping sites. So that's why I flipped it off of Smith. So ideally, it would come off of Northwest Jerome. It's a bigger roadway. But in order to gain, and this, you know, I have had many great discussions with the Ontiveros family, and you know, they weren't looking to just squeeze as many as they could in there, but a few more is better than a few less. So 11 is very, very few. But that was the reason for gaining access off of Smith. Now, the curb and gutter, I believe it was just trying to practice some prescience of what might be on that site. And that's why they put those curb cuts there. It wasn't based on anything other than, well, let's provide 2 for the future. So we had not planned on taking them out, because you would have to cut them out and then re-pour it. And then what exactly do you gain? There would be no roadways or anything there. So I want to make sure I'm answering your question specifically. There's no future plans or use for it. They were just done, I believe, at the request of the city initially when they asked the Ontiveros family to put those in, the curb and gutter and sidewalk in.
Okay. I guess one of my original follow-up questions to that was going to be the original intent. If that lot was intended to be bisected and become 2 lots at some point, or if these were going to be use for the drive-in, if for the driveways, for ingress, egress, if there was a need to downsize the number from 11 down to number N, you know, that we could kind of alleviate some of the concern of density or usage and, you know, the taxation on the infrastructure, if that's something that perhaps the project could pivot off of, to say, understanding that, you know, you've put a lot of work and time into this layout, but in some of the concerns that have come up, obviously our attendees tonight have mentioned the ingress egress pretty consistently as being off Smith Road as being, or Smith Street, as being probably one of the top concerns that would affect everybody day to day. Do you feel, as the applicants, if that were to be a part of the recommendation to utilize Jerome instead of the Smith, if you guys would be willing to approach a shift in the project in that sense?
Sure, I'll communicate that. We did have this conversation when I initially laid it out. And so I want to be careful not to be pedantic, but the reason for trying to get more units is that, you know, and I think we've mentioned this before, you spread the costs of construction over more. And so it makes financing more readily available. It makes the project pencil. You know, there's a chance that if we lower it even by two out of 11 units, I mean, that's almost 20%. What is that, 19%, 18% reduction in revenue that they could generate. And so it's a pretty big decrease, even though seemingly it wouldn't be. Obviously, I'll ask them if that's something they're willing to do. And what I would hope would be considered is that I think what needs to be understood about Smith is that is a roadway that hasn't been improved. And the county doesn't control, as I was made aware by the county does not control the roadways at all. I believe that one is controlled by the Mountain Home Highway District. And so the county doesn't pay for the roadways, it's all done through highway districts. And so we would be offering to improve the roadways as they abut the subject parcel. We would love to say, well, we'd love to expand the road, Smith, to make it more suitable for more traffic, if that be desirable. But we couldn't even if we wanted to, because it's not our road. And it doesn't belong to the city. And so, widening of roads entails that you are then asking people to give up a chunk of their land for the roadways. And so, you have to be careful what you ask for. So, and we understand that. Again, that's why I mentioned the size of the camping sites and the trailers. 25 feet is the maximum. It doesn't mean that the RVs that are going to be there are going to be 25-foot RVs. And I'm certainly no professional when it comes to driving with big trailers. But there's a reason why there is a 12-foot drive lane, even if it is a single direction, is suitable even with a 25-foot RV with vehicle that either tows it or a self-contained unit. So it's kind of a long way around answering the question. I believe they would, certainly they would entertain it, but keep in mind that we're talking about essentially about a 20% decrease in the amount of revenue that they could, and this is commercial. This is slated to be a commercial property.
Not trying to beat the dead horse that exists about the overall length, but I do have a significant history of driving large trucks and pulling long trailers. In my not so expert experience, that's going to be tight. it's gonna be pretty snug. When it comes to that, have we had any interaction with the fire chief about their apparatus being able to
Fire
fit
marshal
down
said
there?
that all of his apparatus will make it through. Yep, we had a pre-development meeting with them.
Taking one step backwards to the last portion of our conversation, was the highway district one of the 28 entities that were notified?
They are notified, yeah. Yep, they're on our list.
Okay.
So, and kind of going to what Ms. Hammond was asking, then because they were already notified, do we need a, I imagine we probably don't need to have a traffic study there.
There's no traffic study required. It doesn't meet the criteria for it.
Right. So, do you, to enlighten us, what is that criteria?
So, Taryn will probably speak to it a lot better than I can, to be honest with you. But basically, this one doesn't meet the criteria because of the small volume in it, the 11 units.
Okay.
And it's not based on Airbase Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I think the more information
Sure.
that everybody
Absolutely.
has, the better understanding that we have of how this works. Gentlemen?
One last question. One of our public comments came up as these streets are not maintained by the county. Do we have an understanding of snow removal down these roadways? Being that this does abut what is a city parcel?
This one would be like way down the line if we get to something, so, it's not one of our main, we would probably, I have to look at what our agreement is for Smith, but I don't have it right in front of me.
Understood.
It's the same thing as what we probably wouldn't get to it because it's not a main arterial. So it's probably not our snow route at all.
Understood. Thank you.
A little related to that, is there any type of, I would imagine not any type of requirement that says, long-term versus short-term, anything like that, in regards to these types of RV parks?
Not as a definition of RV park would control.
I don't think it says anything about.
To back it, I would be curious, long-term or short-term? Is this a long-term thing or a short-term thing?
I would love to give you a straight answer. I don't know, because it's not mine. So
Sure.
I'll ask.
Okay.
Me están pidiendo,
That's
¿verdad?
correct. Okay.
Si la
Yeah.
gente, los clientes van a ser para
I
largo tiempo.
can get something with
para
EDUs.
tiempo corto.
So if they're there for more than 6 months,
O sea, su-
that becomes a spot and it becomes.
Cuando estamos rentando,
Got it.
rentar
Okay.
un mes, 6 meses.
Temporary.
o
You say
una semana.
temporary?
A plot of land upon which two or more recreational vehicles are located, established, or maintained for occupancy
Sí,
of
puede ser,
RVs
porque
by
eso
the
es
general
cierto.
public as temporary living quarters for recreation or vacation purposes.
Okay,
No sé,
so the RV park,
pero es
that would stand then? That would,
habrá un
because we're not talking about then,
algo
like,
así.
permanent,
No, that's not the context.
like, trailers
No,
that are
it's not
set up there?
park models or anything like
Yeah,
that. It's
okay.
talking about tongue-type trailers.
RV
people on
park.
vacation.
Okay,
que puedes rentar cada espacio.
so then the
Si
definite,
quieren
by
rentar
definition,
un espacio por un día nada
Temporary.
más.
it's temporary.
Entonces, si quieren parquear nada más por un día y
A use
una
established for a fixed period of time with the intent to discontinue such use upon the expiration of the time period.
Okay,
That's defined.
okay. So, did we get an answer?
Yes,
Okay,
so they will have a leasing agreement, we'll say,
okay,
and so, but it would be fairly open, so they could stay for a day, or they could stay for a month
okay,
in duration.
okay. Nada más largo.
Más que un mes.
You gotta tell us what you're saying.
I'm asking if it's longer than a month. They're saying it could be, you know, a day or a month, and I'm asking if it's gonna be longer than a month.
Sí, pues.
Respuesta mala. Entonces, si quieren rentar para más que un mes, eso es aceptable.
Entonces, sí se puede, más de un mes. So he is confirming that yes, it could be potentially more than 1 month that their leases are for. Or if they do a renewal, I'm assuming they could probably renew for a month to month. Is that correct? Okay. Gentlemen? Yeah?
A question for Chris and Rich. Rich, you'd mentioned just a few moments ago a 6-month period that the .25 EDU then converts to the 1 month, or the one whole EDU.
Yes. It's the same as all of our agreements.
Do we have a mechanism of monitoring for such things?
We try to go through and check things if we can. I mean, it's basically code enforcement type stuff. You know, so a lot of it, if you notice that they have boards set up around the outside of it, that's kind of a good indication. We watch that a little bit better. So, and I think a lot of these, I know that a lot of construction, you know, they're here for the summertime, and they, month to month, that's usually how they do a lot of that, so.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner?
I'd like to make a motion, please.
Okay.
Is it appropriate to make a statement before the motion? Would that be okay?
Or the chair.
So,
Got it.
unfortunately for me, I'm gonna make the motion just on due to the road. The Smith Road worries me. I also have had a camper many years. I've hauled for a long time. It definitely would be tight. So I just want to make that statement before I decide to make this motion. So I'd like to make a motion to deny the conditional use permit to allow the construction of an RV park on C4 zone located in the corner of Northwest Jerome and Northwest Smith Road, PZ 2364.
I will also qualify my my vote not to approve on the basis, again, road width is a concern. Density doesn't seem to be as much of a concern, but getting those rigs in and out of that spot is going to be tough, which begets the conversation of, is that use harmonious with the surrounding neighborhood? When we have those cars and trucks coming in, cars and trucks that are utilizing the roadway now, and then coming in with RVs that may come in every other day, they may come in every 6 months, that puts a big damper on residents' ability to move in and out of their neighborhoods.
So there's a motion.
You'd have to second.
Yeah, so are you seconding?
I'm seconding the
Okay.
motion.
All right, all in favor?
You have to go single,
Oh, sorry.
so that's okay. Travis Icknes, nay,
Wait.
or aye, excuse me.
Yes.
Got my motion.
Scott?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well, same deal. So, I'm sorry, guys, that's the way it goes. Just, it's really concerning to have that length, or that width there, for me as well. Just the street being so snug there, so. All right, well, motion passes then. Is there anything else I have to say?
No, just move on to the next.
Okay, well then we'll move on to the next. Thanks, guys. All right. Next we'll be hearing PZ 2370. Action item, conditional use permit. Gary Teller on behalf of Hyler Brothers. A conditional use permit to allow for a propane storage facility in an I-2 zoning district located between the 700 and 800 block of Highway 30.
Chairman, so So, I know Mr. Toll's here to speak. You want to come on up? This is a conditional use permit for a propane storage facility. The intentions are for a bulk distribution site that will include a 30,000 gallon bulk propane tank, which leads to the requirement for a conditional use permit based on bulk storage of combustible products. Some of the key points on this one that we need to be aware of is they do plan to have 2 entries off of Highway 30. They will be paved. However, the developer is requesting to defer paving and landscaping requirements to the later phases of the project. Additionally, the developer is requesting to defer the curb gutter sidewalk until future development reaches them. Staff has reviewed their application. They did meet all the public notice requirements for mailing and site postings, and it is the staff's opinion that this is in compliance with the comprehensive plan as it applies to keeping and retaining local business. Mr. Toller, I have a photo that we can show of the proposed site, so.
Okay, Commissioners, I'm Gary Toller, here representing Hyler Brothers, more formally known as Hyler, and Hyler, a partnership. Thomas Hyler, which is one of the Hylers, is here, and his wife. This project requires a conditional use permit to place a propane storage facility. It does encompass some other aspects, but the conditional use permit is for the propane storage facility. I've contacted all the, we had a pre-development meeting with city staff, contacted fire department and various different departments within the city. I've contacted state of Idaho, Idaho Transportation, at which point they said, well, we are not involved. This was given to the Mountain Home Highway District, which the state had no issue with it. I contacted Mountain Home Highway District, and at that point, Mountain Home Highway District says, no, we no longer have control of this. It's the city's. Mountain Home Highway District had no concerns with the project. The project's going to have 2 entries into it, and these, as Chris had stated, will be paved mainly for dirt migration and a good, safe, adequate access into the property for heavy trucks and large equipment to get in there. This project is also going to have a cardlock fuel dispensing area to allow bigger trucks to get in, farm trucks, so on and so forth, to fuel with high output capacity. This part of that project does not require conditional use. It is allowed in the I-2 zone. All safety requirements that are required will be accomplished. There'll be protection for the propane tank, both with fence and concrete barriers. Eventually, the project in phases will go and have fencing around the total project other than the access points. And as Chris stated, we would like to defer the paving and landscaping because the project may vary as it progresses, and we don't want to put anything in that we have to tear up at a later point in time. But we will cover the paving to mitigate dirt migration onto the highway. I think that covers pretty much everything that, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions. Thomas, if I can't answer them, may be able to answer those.
Okay. Thank you. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and open it up for public hearing.
I'm first on that list.
Okay.
All right.
I can't see it. so I can't call you up. State your name, please. And
It's James Smothers. I live at 810 South 3rd West A.
okay.
I live in this house right there.
Okay.
I'm directly in the blast zone of this thing if it ever goes.
Okay.
I'm really concerned about the fact that building that, where that train derailed this summer. And as I understand it, the train was careening through town, and it started bouncing, and one of the empty cars bounced up, derailed off into that area. So I like to hear that there's going to be concrete around that. Is the concrete going to be high enough to buffer a train car hitting it? That would be my question there. The second thing is, that tank that they've got installed right there is electric. This summer, we have lost power in our area twice. What does the loss of power do? Because there's nothing in the plans concerning a backup generator or anything like that. And that was during the summer, not the winter. What does the loss of power do to those tanks that are holding the fuel if they heat up and can't be cooled down or repressurized or whatever they do? Another concern that I have is on this side over here, you have the Habitat for Humanity. Now, since this thing is going to be fenced 100%, that's good, but all those people are living right next to that tank as well. One of the bigger issues that I have is yesterday I walked over that property and I looked at this tank right here. This tank was built in the 80s. It's got a nice fresh coat of white paint on it. It's got rust bleeding through. My understanding is with propane tanks, rust crystallizes the steel underneath. That tank has never been inspected for further damage. It may have been inspected, but it hasn't been refurbished in any way. And the rust that I saw, I didn't even walk all the way around the tank. As soon as I saw the rust right here on the manufacturing plate, and I saw the rust on the main valve in the center, I didn't even bother walking around it. Primarily, I'm really concerned that my house is so close to that.
Okay.
And my other concern is, if that tank was built in the 80s, and that's the one that they chose to move out there first, these other tanks that they're planning to put on this farm, when were they built? And what kind of safety will there be there? Now, as far as something should ever happen, are they planning on having that place manned 24 hours a day to, if there's an emergency, so that they can notify the proper authorities? And speaking of the proper authorities, there's two ways from the fire station, near as I can tell, to get to that tank, and that is through Air Base Road and through a road up here that does not look like it's maintained by the city, the county, or the railroad. If you cross those railroad tracks, you'll see what I mean. Those tracks are in disrepair at that juncture. So, next question I would have, if I was going to keep asking questions all night, is...
You technically have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be done. Next question I have is, the fire department, should something happen, what are they going to be doing? Because, like I said, my house is right there.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be looking for me and my wife? Or are they going to be trying to put out the fire? I don't see any kind of emergency equipment on this map. That's pretty much what I have.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anybody else? Okay.
My name's Don Guest. I'm not sure. Tom, is that next to,
You gotta ask us.
Yeah, you gotta talk.
is that next to, I can't think of his name,
Los Pinos.
Las Pinos across the street from it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just kind of deceiving. So, we're supposed to have a Buku fire department, and you guys are supposed to be taking care of this kind of stuff. Nothing against Tom, but if you guys do your job, you guys can respond to that. He may have to put some signs out there saying contacts or something, who to contact or whatever. But what's to say if that was an old tank or a new tank? I don't care what happens. You can't change anything about that. They can blow up just as easy probably as a brand new one. And sure, maybe there's some houses there close by, but there's a fire department there too, and that's their job, whether it be city or county. And they're just over the tracks. And what did we buy all these fire trucks for? Just to look at?
Do we have any other comments on the project?
Not too much. I mean, I feel that it's not a bad location. I mean, there's a propane tank on the other side. So what's the matter with that one?
Okay.
I don't know whose it is, but, and we had a fire down the road that dude didn't know about. A homeless person was cooking or something out there and started a fire. That's one of the reasons the power was probably turned off, because it turned off a whole bunch around town here that people don't know about.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Questions? Concerns? Okay. I'd like to go ahead and invite you back up,
Okay.
Mr. Tiller. Commissioners?
Okay, distance, it has to be from a home. That's gonna be my first question. How far does that size of a tank have to be from a residential space? I know that's gonna be a tough question, but I need to abate some of this question. Seemed like that was the largest concern. So if we can answer that, I think that'll appease.
I can't
the
answer
situation.
that question directly.
Okay.
These tanks are very highly regulated. They cannot be placed any place where they're not allowed. They can't be placed if the tank is unsafe. The tanks will be certified. They'll follow all requiremms as far as safety goes. Concrete barriers are there. The property itself is approximately 80 feet from the railroad tracks. There's a sewer easement that runs down the back of the property, right through the property. There will be no development on that. I can't speak specifically how far the tank is from the tracks, but it's a goodly ways away from the tracks. Like I say, they're very highly regulated because of danger factors.
How often? How often are they checked?
Once a year.
Okay. Are they checked by a state official?
Yes.
Okay.
Calhoun tanks.
Okay.
They have all the inspections and everything for
Would
them.
you state your name for the...
Yeah, my name's Thomas Heiler, and I will sign in here. I am the
Sign in, sir.
managing partner of Heiler Brothers Company here, and Gary is helping us, and I would like to answer some of those questions that maybe Gary's not as familiar with. Number one, we are required by federal and state law to be a minimum of 50 feet away from the railroad tracks. That is the requirement. Every town in America has fuel and propane tanks along the railroad tracks. We have fuel tanks just on the other side of the tracks. We decided to exceed the 50 feet requirement, and we went all the way to 80. We just wanted to be extra safe. We thought that somebody might raise a concern at some point down the road that a rail car could come off. One did come off in the area, and it went right along the edge of the tracks, and took them a couple days to get it fixed. Nowhere near in towards the property. We also have requirements of how far we have to be from our property lines for this size of a tank. Every size tank has its own requirements. A 30,000 gallon tank has requirements of how far you have to be in from your property lines on all sides. We have exceeded those. In this particular case, we have quadrupled those, and we are in the center of the property for a reason, and we are, an extra 30 feet away from the railroad tracks. So we've exceeded all of those. We also have a requirement of how far we have to be away from the center of the highway, and we are nowhere close to that requirement. We are tons away from the road, and we think that's really important with this here too. The gentleman brought up, I'd like to answer a few of the questions, brought up the Habitat for Humanity. I don't know exactly what that is, but John Heiler, one of the partners of our company, who has that lot there that he referred to, had a sign up there that said urban habitat because there was a lot of overgrowth there and he didn't want to cut it down. I'm not going to get into that, but I consider this a beautification project for the area. And John Heiler no longer owns that piece of property. I own it, and there is nobody living on there.
Okay.
And just to the other side where Highway 30 Drive-In is, we've spoke to that lady. She's a customer of ours and has a propane tank on her property as well. I think it is very important. I think the gentleman brings up a good question about the safety. These 30,000 gallon tanks are under an enormous amount of restrictions and the pressure testing that has to be done every year on them. All of the valves on this tank are brand new. Everything is in very good working order. These tanks do, at times, if they sit long enough, I've had to repaint our fuel tanks at our bulk plant on the other side of the tracks. They've been sitting there, we've had them there. Those tanks have been there, some of them since the 20s. And we've had to repaint them lots of times because rust does start to develop on them. And the way to take care of that is with oil-based paint, which is what we've done here. These tanks were freshly painted with oil-based paint. There is a ID plate on the tank that is required by federal law. It has to be legible, and that piece of metal that gets attached to a steel tank does have a tendency to have a little tiny bit of rust get on that, and that is something that has to be maintained once a year when they do the inspection to make sure there's no pitting in the tanks or there's any integrity problems with the tank. So I think I just want to let you know that also that the thing was brought up about electricity. There is electricity to the property already. There is electricity to where that house that used to sit there that we had removed by the fire department. And there is power that is going to run the pump on that propane tank to pump the fuel from the tank onto our trucks. If the power was to go out, we use the PTO on the truck to pump fuel out of the tank into our trucks or from our trucks into the tank. You can just use the PTO on the truck and it doesn't require any electricity. I will also tell you, I've been through a lot of training with these tanks. I know how to handle them. I know what's safe and what's not with them. And I'll also tell you that I'm not sure how that tank would blow up, but if that tank was to blow up, it has a radius of about 30 feet that tank is going to involve anything around it. And that's why we have to have a fence and barriers around it. This isn't a tank that's going to blow up and take half the neighborhood or something with it. That isn't what propane does. So propane is one of the most safe fuels to use. It's much safer than using gasoline. And it is also something that does not spill, it does not leak onto the ground and cause any contamination or anything of that nature. So it's a very safe product. So I don't know if I've answered all your questions. If you have any other ones, Gary's done a ton of legwork on this. We've met with the fire department. They love the project. They really like the location of the tank and the fact that we own the property on one side and the property owner on the other side, John Furbrush, is in complete agreement with this. Both our neighbors on both sides are in complete agreement with this going in. There is a couple places across the street, John and Gary Pest and Lawn. John is not here tonight. He loves the project. He has no problem with it. There is the bar there that is closed. They have no problem with it. And Los Pinos has also had no problems with the issues. I've had lunch there and spoke with those people as well. I do understand that the gentleman has a house behind them, But I can assure you, as Mr. Gus back here said, we have an outstanding fire department. And I'm not really aware of anything that could happen at that tank that would affect his house whatsoever. So, anyway, I'll turn the rest of it back over to Gary.
Thank you. Commissioners?
No, that cleared it up for me.
Okay.
I just have a couple quick questions about the layout.
Okay.
In the diagram, what do our red circles here and here indicate?
I want to be careful that I was asked by the city, give us your wish list of what you'd like to do at this property. And I'm nowhere near that at the moment. But those red circles are oil tanks. That's what we have a bulk plant on the other side of town. We have a bulk fuel business here in Mountain Home, have since 1961. And we have a lot of growth in our community, and we are the last fuel supplier left in Mountain Home. There used to be 8 in Mountain Home. We used to have 8 bulk plants along these tracks.
Wow.
Where this property is, all through there was bulk plants. And quite frankly, the property right to our left had a bulk plant right behind it as well. And anyway, we're very busy in our community. We deliver a lot of fuel and oil, gas and diesel and propane, these RV parks and businesses, and we are supplying a lot of people in our community with a much needed resource, which is fuel. But anyway, to directly answer your question, we have a bulk plant on the other side of the tracks that, for many of the reasons that you talked about with this RV project, it's getting a little tight getting our trucks in and out of there. 2nd Street has been closed, going through the old Paul's Market there, through there. It's been a little tough getting our transports and stuff through there. And after speaking with the fire department, we spoke with the state and some other people before we eventually spoke to the city, and they just think this is a wonderful location, much safer to get our fuel transports and our trucks in and out. And I will assure you that this will be a first-class project. As we progress through this, we will put in the fence that's needed. We will put in very nice beautification. I plan on having the whole lot paved down the road, and especially these in and outs, with the mud and the dirt and everything else there, but, and then a fence across the front. So anyway, we have, we'd like to maybe down the road move our plant here that we have across from Commercial Tire. That is a possibility down the road. But right now, our main focus is the propane tank.
Of note, all of the other types of fuel are outright permitted.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that in the diagram here, the propane tank that's shown in red is the one that's placed, and then there were these next to that. I wanted to kind of get a clarification if those were going to be upright tanks similar to what we see across the street at Ace or at D&B, or if there was any of tanks of those sizes, if these were going to be that, if there was any further discussion to be had, but it sounds like there's not.
And all containment of any of that type of product has to be followed, for any kind of containment or for spillage, things along those lines. So that's, and there again, like I said, it's an allowed use in that area. We wouldn't have to be sitting here for that.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you.
Chairwoman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to allow a propane storage facility in an I-2 zoning district located between the 7 and 800 block of Highway 30, PZ 2370.
Second.
Okay. Travis?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
All right. Let's see here. Okay. Moving forward. New business, we have none. Old business, none. Department head items. Items requested by commissioners and staff. We have the August 2023 Code Enforcement Report and the August 2023 Building Permit Report. Any questions on that?
I don't know that I have any questions per se, other than, do you think, Chris, would it be a possibility to have code enforcement visit a meeting of this body, maybe once every 6 months
Absolutely.
or so, that we could, gather our questions and pose to.
Yep,
I like that
absolutely.
idea. Are we due for another training?
That's up to you.
I think that might be a good idea.
Oh, with how well that went, it seemed pretty good.
You have new people yet?
Not yet.
Are you supposed to?
I don't think so.
Or you have all the people you're,
Yeah.
Yes, we're full. We're
Yeah.
a full body.
Yep.
you don't have any full body.
Except not today.
Yeah,
All
not-
right. Well, if there's no other questions or anything, we're going to adjourn at